Welcome to the 4x4 Canada podcast. I am your host, Wes, and today we got some really special people. They're not quite Yukoners, but we might as well call them Yukoners or Northwesters. They're right at the top of north end of BC. Today we have Leandra and Philip. So Leandra and Philip, they are the Brient family, and want to welcome you guys onto the show today. I'm super excited about this. You guys are the first Northern people, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but you guys are the first Northern people that we have had on the podcast.
Thanks for having us. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So basically, they're as the Brient family on YouTube and Instagram, and we'll hop into all that in a second. But Philippe and Leandra, they live in northern British Columbia, almost on the border of the Yukon border there. And they have done some incredible ventures, both as overlanding as well as on snowmobile expeditions up into the Arctic. We'll get into that in a second. I do want to give a quick shout out to check out our episode from last week with Adventures Unexpected. They were actually just up into Tuktoyaktuk a little while ago. They came back late fall. And so they did some exploring up in Alaska and Tuktoyaktuk area up in Yukon. And they're actually from Ontario, and they have some really neat things that they put on, events that they put on an Ontario overlanding style event. So check them out on Instagram and Facebook at Adventures Unexpected. And if you haven't listened to the episode last week, definitely check it out. We had some really good conversations about traveling as a couple and exploring all over North America. They've been down into the southern states as well, too. So we had some really good insights on that. Coming up in the next couple of weeks, we've got some off-road races coming up. We got Jamie from Throttle Happy. They're heading down to KOH in a couple of weeks, down to the King of Hammers. And this year they are bringing their 4x4, but they also bring down a UTV. So we're going to have an interview with Jamie from Throttle Happy before the event. And then we're going to have a recap in, I'm going to say, about 2-3 weeks after the event on how their event went down to the King of Hammers. Super excited to talk with Jamie before and after the event. But today we are back here with Leandra and Philip, and welcome to the 4x4 Canada podcast, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
As I mentioned, I am super excited about this. We've been going back and forth a bit, and I've been following you guys for a while now on YouTube and following your adventures right from your overland adventures and your hiking and stuff like that, right up to your snowmobile trips. I know you guys had some pretty awesome snowmobile expeditions up in the Arctic, and been really following those and loving that as well. Gonna give a shout out to your social medias real quick. Basically, our listeners can check you out as the Brient Family on YouTube and Instagram, and that is BRIENT. And of course, we'll put those links in the show notes as well. There's so much I want to talk to you guys about. You guys really live an interesting life, I think, between your kind of off-grid living as well as your exploring. And as I mentioned, you guys are the first Northern people that we've had. I'm not going to call you Yukoners because you're not quite Yukoners, but you guys are Yukoners. You guys are so close to it, right? You're closer to Yukon than really BC for the most part. So,
and actually, the only road coming to Atlin comes from the Yukon, right?
Yeah, so you got to go through it to get there. So I love the fact that you guys are living off-grid up in northern BC. Like you mentioned, the only town coming into Atlin is going through Yukon. And I guess Whitehorse would be your closest city.
That's right, yeah, about 200 kilometers north.
Okay, so a good couple hour drive at least then.
Yeah, 2 hours, yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. How the hell did you guys end up in Atlin?
That's a long story, but
I was traveling with horses from Hickson, BC to Atlin. And then I use Atlin as my base to start the rest of the expedition on dog sledding and then by canoe. I didn't know Atlin at all when I moved here. It was just on my way from my pack horses trip it was the end of the pack horses trip from Hickson, BC.
So you brought the horses from Hickson,
yeah.
And then you mentioned that you were also heading farther than that, or you ended up just staying in Atlin, or what was the rest of your expedition on that?
Well, it was a 1.5 year long expedition that I started in Yukon, BC with horses, and then to Atlin, and then from Atlin to Dawson City with a dog team, and then to the Bering Straight by canoe.
Holy crap, I didn't even know any of this when I was doing some research.
It's not on internet much because it happened more than 25 years ago.
But that's one hell of a story upon itself. You're talking pack horses, you're talking dog sleds, and then you're talking along the river as well, too, right? How long did that take you?
A year and a
And
half.
what was the purpose of that as well, too?
Adventure. That's all I can tell, really. Nothing else than the adventure, getting to challenge yourself and discovering new spaces, discovering, for me, new countries. I don't know, adventure, just pure adventure.
Yeah, super been adventuring lots in the Arctic prior, like in Spitsbergen and in Iceland and
Greenland.
Canada was, in Greenland. You kind of like the west coast of Greenland. And then next one was go across BC with pack horses on the Telegraph Trail and dog sled and canoe.
That's how I got to know Atlin. And I didn't stay in Atlin there. I went back home, France, and then decided to immigrate to Canada and then made it to Atlin from France directly and never went anywhere else in Canada, to live.
So let's actually back up on that too, because adventure is obviously a huge part of your guys' life. And I think that started obviously long before you came to Canada. Now, you mentioned that you grew up in France, and I know that you've done some, as Leandra just mentioned as well too, that you've done some work in the Arctic before, exploring through Greenland and stuff like that. Was it work related, or is it just for the adventure of it?
And it was mostly for the adventure, but I was sponsored at that time, so it was not really work, but it was partly financed itself through sponsorship. Yeah.
And so maybe you can give us a quick little rundown of some of the exploration that you did in the Arctic before you came to Canada.
I was really specializing on anything glaciers, crossing ice caps and things like that on skis and with spooks, and sea kayaking for Greenland. That was really much what I was training for. So training, mountaineering kind of training, and glacier kind of expedition in the Arctic. That kind of thing, really. That was my specialty. And when I decided to do that trip in Canada, that was... I needed a change. I just wanted to do something in the forest for a change, so you can have campfires at night kind of stuff. I love zeroing aware. It's very remote as well, but I wanted something different. So I decided to go with pack horses, and mostly in beautiful British Columbia forest and mountains. And it was, that's what I wanted to try. And then I really liked it.
You picked up one of the most beautiful parts of BC, from my understanding. Yeah. I have not been up into Atlin, but I have been into some of the northern parts. You got the mountains there, coming over from Hickson as well. You happen to land in some of the most beautiful parts, right from the mountains right up into the Arctic, right? So
that's right.
Yeah, very lucky. And what about you, Leandra? I know you're not native to Canada as well either.
That's right. No, I grew up in the Netherlands. And my parents, before having kids, traveled around Canada and the US and almost immigrated to Canada, bought a campground on Vancouver Island, but then decided not to. And so when I was a teenager, I did a year high school in the US. And my parents came to visit me, and they really fell in love with just the lifestyle in North America and decided to move their family of then 4 teenagers across the ocean to Canada. And we landed in Kelowna. And I finished my school. I was going to school for hotel and hospitality management, and then started working in Kelowna when I finished that. But I wanted to travel and see the world while doing seasonal work. So I worked out of Nimpo Lake at a fishing lodge one summer, and one of the cooks there, she said, if you want work for the winter, you should go to Atlin and work for the heli skiing company there. And so I applied and got the job and came to Atlin to work for the winter season. And I was housed in the hotel that Philippe was operating as his business at the time. And one night we met, and that's been 18 years now.
18 years later. That is wonderful. Just the chance of you taking that job, and that basically redefined the rest of your life, right? It's just those chances that you take and go from there. Yeah, I'm actually still totally blown away by the horsepacking and the dog sleds and the kayaking up into the north of that Arctic. And I think that's a whole other topic that one day we'll sit around the campfire and talk about, because that's just one hell of an adventure. You guys have done a lot of adventures since you moved up into Atlin.
Yeah.
You guys are what I would definitely call outdoor people. You got your hiking, you got some overlanding in there, you got the snowmobiles. Let's go on to the snowmobile trip. This is something I've been super excited to talk to you guys about. And I know that's not your first snowmobile adventure up into the Arctic, but we'll talk about it first. Basically, for our listeners, you guys took a trip up to the Arctic Ocean on snowmobiles, and yourselves and your son, Justin. So 3 snowmobiles. And how many kilometers, and how long did that take you for that adventure?
So the snowmobile part was 1,600 kilometers or 1,000 miles even. And then it took us, I think, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more than.
Maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
Something around 15 days. Yeah.
You drove up to Fort Fraser, I believe it was.
Fort McPherson.
Fort McPherson. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. Which is like a few hundred kilometers below Tuktoyaktuk.
Right.
Maybe it's around 15.
It's still, that's a long ways away from you guys, from your home.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, pretty much a long full day driving. It is, I think, 1,400 kilometers.
Yeah, something like that.
1,400 kilometers from Atlin Airport.
Yeah, that's a long drive, especially in the
Yeah.
middle of winter. Is that something like you got to make sure that you guys are prepared, even just for the drive? Never mind the expedition part with the
Yeah.
snowmobiles, but you got to make sure that you have everything that you need in case something happens. You guys are in the middle of nowhere. You're driving from the middle of nowhere to the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But I guess we're used to driving in the middle of nowhere, and we know
That's
how to be
true.
well prepared.
Yeah, but not our first trip on the Dempster Highway in the winter.
No.
We had the opportunities before to travel on it in the winter.
Yeah.
Actually,
We've never seen it in the summer.
we only go on the Dempster Highway in the winter. So I'm not sure how it looks in summer, but in winter it looks very good.
There's too many tourists in the summer.
Not too many bugs.
Too many.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That is true. Maybe you can give us a bit of a rough outline of this trip. I know it's almost like 2 trips in one kind of idea. You left Fort McPherson and you headed west.
Yeah,
Can you maybe
right.
give our listeners a rundown on that trip?
Yeah, so we had the first plan. We had different. We had plan A, plan B. Well, we never know what condition we're gonna meet. So plan A was actually a loop going from Fort McPherson, going west, crossing the Richardson's Mountain towards Old Crow, and then from Old Crow going north towards the coast, towards Island. And then from Herschel Island on the Arctic Ocean, we would go east back towards the Mackenzie Delta on Aklavik and down to Fort McPherson. That was plan A. And we actually did plan B, which was good. The conditions were not perfect, to say the least. So we went, as expected, through the Richardson Mountains. Were absolutely beautiful. We went all the way to Old Crow. And then from Old Crow, we learned that it was an exceptional year for snow, as there was a lot of snow in the north, very unusual amount of snow. And the snow hasn't settled yet. So it was very soft snow. So we started to go north, and it required for us to do 3 times the distance, because as we were going, we had to go empty, not able to carry our toboggans. So we would go the first day empty, coming back the next day, and then go again. So it would take 3 times the distance to do anything. And of course, the distance they are huge. What we wanted to do was to do that loop. It meant that we couldn't carry enough gas to do that loop because of the snow condition, because of too much snow condition. So we didn't want to quit on our objective, which was to go to Herschel Island in the Arctic Ocean. Instead, we turned around, went back to Old Crow, back to Fort McPherson. And from McPherson, we took the Pear River and then the Mackenzie River to go to the coast, and then west again to reach Herschel Island. It wasn't a loop anymore, but we did about the same, but not in a loop, in a much more mileage, in a way. It was plan B. So and then we're fine with it. We had plan B, well, plan C. We always have tons of plans when we go somewhere, because at the end, we're just a family of 3. We don't have government support or nothing or any kind of backup. So we have to be pretty careful when we do something. That we need to think, okay, if something goes bad here, what's our plan for rescue, or let's say just if a mission stops working, something like that. Here so far, you have to evaluate all those risks, and then we have decided that it was better to turn around and go to our destination another way, which is our plan B.
And you still got there. That's in the end. That's the main thing, right?
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier that you would have to go and then come back and get your toboggans. Was that because you weren't able to really break a trail or something like that with all the snow?
Yeah, we couldn't break a trail with heavy toboggans. So we could break a trail. So the first day you go empty. The 3 of us, you're coming back on your own trail, picking up your toboggans, and then you go back to where you went. So it takes 3 times the distance.
Yeah.
So so basically like you break 50 kilometers of trail, you go back, you sleep where you slept the night before. The next morning you start by moving your camp to where you stop the next day, and then you break 50 kilometers of trail and so forth. And that would it would have taken too much time
Yeah.
and too much fuel. And like our goal, we really wanted to reach Herschel Island, especially since then we felt like, it's in a way so close.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, in order to have success in reaching that goal, let's turn around and go on the Mackenzie Delta. And I'm happy with it because we did reach our goal and it was beautiful.
We were ready with that because we had been in the Arctic the same year before for the national defense, and then we knew there was too much snow. Right? It was just a tough year. Some years there's not enough snow, or no snow at all in the tundra, or bad ice, or stuff like that. There's always something. Eventually, it's hard to get everything perfect at the time you need to go. Right, for work, we had decided it was March or whatever it was, and then maybe it was fine in April. Who knows?
Yeah.
When the snow starts to have a crust, and then it's fine. But when we went, it wasn't said, there's always eventually something. That's why we go with different plans. And I said I was in the Arctic the month before, and we knew there was too much snow. But hey, maybe in a few weeks, sometimes it's just like a few days to change. The snow can shift, and then in a few days you have a crust, and then hey, no more problem anymore. But it didn't happen. So the snow was abundant, maybe at least 4 or 5 feet. And then even with a super wide, I was hitting like deep ruts. It was barely any flotation. It was possible, but not with the weight we were carrying.
But yeah, up to Old Crow, it was fine.
Yeah, because Old Crow is a small First Nations or Indigenous community.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that was real fine there.
Yeah. Is there a road there in the summertime, or is that something that they just normally use snow?
No, they do a winter road every so often, every so many years. They put a winter road, but from a different, not on the route we took. We had decided to go through the Richardsons for pleasure of the beautiful landscape there, really.
But otherwise it's a fly-in only community.
Yeah, flying only.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I do want to mention to our listeners again to check out the Brient Family on YouTube, because this whole adventure that we're talking about is covered over 2, 3, or 4 videos. And you can really see the conditions that you guys are going through when you're struggling with the snow and that, as well as when you're doing some river crossings. I know that there are some times where the ice was a little soft, or it seemed a little, and I know you guys were struggling a bit with that as well too.
Yeah.
Was there any times that you were out there and you're thinking, oh my God, what the hell have we gotten ourselves into?
Not really, but sometimes it's always a bit sketchy, but we try to have plans for any problems. And when we take the chance, it's really a calculated chance. So let's say we're talking about the ice there. So between Fort McPherson and Old Crow, the snow was not an issue because it was nicely wind-packed. So there was no problem with snow, but there was a creek called Stony Creek that was without snow and with very weird ice. And we had that for 60 kilometers of very different ice from us, from what we used to, which was lots of frozen overflow with layers of ice, a bit of water, and another layer of ice, and a little bit of water. So it was quite different. And when we first came to that, we didn't know already how to approach it. I went to check on food. It felt very spongy. It wasn't hard. It was just like prying under my weight, and you could hear water gurgling under.
We both have been involved with search and rescue for many years, and we have like flat ice rescue training and swiftwater rescue training. So we have like our instincts of we're all kicking in for, okay, let's make sure this is safe to go across.
So yeah, that was very different ice. We don't have those kind of ice in the Yukon or in Atlin. So it was different. And then by cutting some of the ice with a chainsaw, we've been able to figure out that it was a layer of ice, a layer of water, a layer of ice. So nobody's gonna die, right? Because it's soft. But actually, there's no water left, really. You may get stuck very bad. There's actually no big flow of water in most of the creek. Maybe some pools here and there. So you need to get used to that weird sensation of cracking ice and failing ice all the time, but you're just falling into another layer of ice and with a little bit of water in between. So it's always, this is nerve-breaking, but it is not dangerous. Nobody's going to die. Nobody's going to swing. But
Yep.
last is stuck, and then you never know. Maybe it's gonna change. Maybe it was fine 10 kilometers away because we had 60 kilometers of that. But nerve wracking. But actually, it's probably for people who live there and do that all the time. They most likely know that creek is like that every winter, and it doesn't really matter. But for us, it was different kind of ice. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine it'd be definitely nerve wracking the first little bit going through it as you can feel it move run underneath you and that. But like you mentioned, the folks that are out there all the time at these other little settlements and that, they probably know that creek is like that. So
I would say so.
I get that.
Yeah.
So you ended up in Herschel Island.
That's right.
Your end goal. I really enjoyed that video that you guys did with Herschel Island. There's a couple things that I really noticed. The muskox, that was cool. When your son Justin noticed those off to the side, and I'd never really seen them. Like I've seen pictures of them and stuff like that, but to get up. I know you guys weren't super close to them. To see them out in the wild, that must have been something really neat.
Yeah, they were very happy with that. That was definitely we were very happy. Yeah.
And you guys also went looking for polar bears. You're always looking for polar bears out there, but that thought must be, I don't know, that's weird when you're going through an area and you're always keeping in the back of your mind that there's polar bears out there, right? That's, I guess it's the same as your area where you guys are living during the summer and that with Atlin. You're always aware that there's grizzlies around there and stuff, right? It's something that's always in the back of your mind. But maybe you can tell us a little bit about Herschel Island as well as the tanker that is out there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that thing. I had heard about it from colleagues patrolling that way, and then it's got a site that tanker / oil platform. They are frozen into the ice. It's an abomination, but sometimes it's
a landmark.
Yeah, and it's very impressive. It's very impressive to be there, like canoeing by that platform, like frozen, and so it's
huge.
Yeah, it's huge. So it's an oil platform that's been made of an oil tanker. So that's why it's a weird looking thing.
Yeah.
And it is not floating. It's on a stand to the bottom of the sea there, like a regular oil platform. And then it's abandoned. It hasn't been used since the early 2000s or whatever, something like that, even before maybe.
Yeah.
And it's just there. It is. And of course, in the Arctic, you can see from far away. So basically, we could see that stuff from the morning and slowly getting to it. So you can see clear, right? And 60 kilometers away. See that thing. Look, there's a boat stuck in the ice there.
Yeah.
No, that's what it was. I mean, it's definitely a very well-known landmark for the local people who hunt there and things like that, fish.
Yeah. And I think you did a very good job of explaining more about it on the video, a little bit of the history of it and how it ended up there and the modifications that they did to this oil tanker to make it an actual oil platform, basically, right? Yeah. So they had to go through some pretty impressive modifications on it. So
that's right.
Yeah. Now, Herschel Island. Yeah. What's the scoop with Herschel Island?
What's the scoop with Herschel Island? A beautiful place.
It is the most northern land of the Yukon.
The most northern point in the Yukon. Yeah. And it just sits a little bit off the coast. It's a historic station, and there's lots of historic buildings.
And it was, there used to be First Nation people living there, Inuit people living there before the whalers, of course. But not anymore. It's not they have hunting and fish camp on the island, but they don't live there permanently anymore.
They just come there in the summertime kind of idea, right?
Yeah, and a little bit of the winter time, I think, for some hunting, definitively. Yes, so if you go there, you may meet people on snow machine hunting. Yeah, we did not, but that's what they normally do.
Yeah, and I noticed there was definitely a few buildings there. You guys ended up cleaning one up and staying in it the one night.
That's right.
Yeah, after you had to get rid of the snow out of it, unfortunately.
That was quite a shock.
With the broken window and the blizzard there makes that any little hole space and it's gonna the snow seep through and it fills the space behind.
Yeah,
That's pretty impressive.
Must have been a bit of a shock though. You're probably looking to a nice warm night inside, and you come into this
Yeah.
cabin and it's full of snow.
Yeah, that's right.
We had our tent for backup, but we were expecting to stay in that cabin because we had heard about it. It's, I think it was traveler's cabin and it's maintained by the Yukon government, I think. And we were expecting to stay in it. So when we saw in what shape it was, oh no. But it was already in the day, and so let's shovel it out. And then we found a piece of plywood to
board the
broken window, and it was nice and cozy in there in no time.
Mm-hmm.
So on this trip, let's hop into what you guys were doing when you didn't have a cabin available, a traveler's cabin available. You guys were in a tent, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we traditionally have been traveling with wall tents and using those to camp. But the wall tent that we have is heavy and bulky and takes a while to set up. So this trip, we wanted to try something new to us, which is using an ice fishing tent for camping. It's lighter, it's faster to set up.
Yep.
And then Philippe built a smaller stove for that. And that actually worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's light. It's much lighter than a wall tent, much faster to put together.
Yeah, which is key on an expedition like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wall tent, move a wall tent every day is a little bit obnoxious. It takes a lot of work. That's right. And it's heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And obviously you guys are gone for the 2 weeks or whatever it is, 3 snowmobiles, and was it 2 toboggans or 3 toboggans? I can't remember.
Three toboggans, but on the last days, we left 2 of the toboggans behind to reach Herschel Island because we had to return the same way, so we could only take 1. We tried to avoid 2 of them for no reason because on the Arctic, the ice or the snow is so hard.
Yeah, this is true here on the ocean.
The chances of breakage on the toboggan are pretty high. So we decided to just go with 1 for the last few days.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I noticed on that video is that kind of caught me off guard is how rough the ice is on the Arctic Ocean.
Yeah.
I guess because it would break and then freeze and break and freeze kind of idea, right? Yeah, it really caught me off guard.
Yeah.
And it can be worse than that because first when it gets worse than that, we don't go there and then we don't film there. But we sometimes it is quite a maze to find your way through the jungle.
The jumbo ice? Yes. And even the wind, because it's a very windy place, the snow is really wind packed and hard.
So even if there would be even if there was no ice breakage during the winter, there's still like those drift every 2-3 meters. It makes a little amount of rock solid snow, and it is very uncomfortable. You can't really go fast, even if sometimes there's a nice ice. It looks like you could go fast on it, but most of the time it's impossible. It's just too rough, and especially when you tow a toboggan, right, with no suspension on it. Everything breaks in it, even when you go slow.
Mm-hmm.
And then we knew that from before, from other trips, everything breaks in a toboggan. If this is terrible. So even well organized, even if you know that, you're still gonna have like surprisingly things come apart, right? Like your stove can come, everything that's bolts or screws is gonna come apart.
Yeah, just the friction. The tent bag got holes in it just from the friction on the bolts on the bottom. So we ended up lining our boggins with like willow and stuff like that, kind of to add more shock absorption.
And we know about that, and we thought we had work enough on preventing those, but it's never enough. It's so rough for the toboggan. For the machine, it's fine. It's for the toboggans, it's very rough.
Yeah. It's if there's something that doesn't go wrong, that's not real expedition. It's not.
That's right. Yeah.
You can never go on a big trip like this and they go 100% exactly the way you want, right?
No. Problem solving is the name of the game.
And that's why you have plan A, B, C, and D, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So for example, those bumps would break jerry cans, obsessively opening the caps or the vents.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Where you don't notice it. And it drop after drop. You can have empty jerry can just from a loose cap because of the bumps or stuff like that.
Yeah. Or Justin's hitch kept coming loose. And,
it's that bad.
Yeah.
Even if you prepare for it, there's always something that you're going to break.
Yeah.
Speaking of fuel, how many jerry cans did you guys have to bring it? Snowmobiles are pretty good on fuel, but still, you're working them.
Yeah, and there's 3.
Yeah, between the 3 of us, at the worst, we had to transport 25 jerry cans.
Yeah.
Wow.
25.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of weight. Yeah.
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 No kidding. I didn't realize
Yeah.
it was that much, but
Yeah,
yeah,
the
that's a
distance is not bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Distances between the ratio are very bad, and that's why when we had those bad snow conditions, where too much snow, and then go on and forget it then.
Yeah.
Because with 25 jerry cans, we were already stretching it a little bit. And we like to have a little bit of a margin for you get lost or you had to reach. Even with 25, that was just about not so much of a margin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in those earlier conditions when you mentioned, no wonder you're having problems bringing those toboggans behind you because of the weight on them.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of weight on there, right? So
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
obviously you didn't have all full 25 of them full at that point because you'd already used a bunch, right?
Yeah.
But still,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
lot of weight.
Yeah. And we have one bogan that's only gas because of the breakage. So you don't want to mix gas and camping equipment. So we have one bogan with only gas that gets lighter eventually. And then the rest, we have them on the snow machine themselves.
What are you guys doing for food on that kind of expedition?
We do a mix of light, dry food that we prepare ourselves before and frozen meat because my master and I we can't do real meat very long. So we usually, because it's in cold anyway, so we usually have a cooler full of frozen meat. Yeah.
Yeah, like lots of lentils and pasta and rice and bannock for breakfast. Yeah.
Yeah, because imagine something like that. I think about when I go out, I might go out for a week or something like that, but also I'm an hour away or 2 hours away from even a small, tiny little store, right? Whereas you guys are out in the middle of nowhere. So you've got to think about all this so much more ahead of time.
Yeah.
A lot more
so
planning.
we spent about a month getting everything ready, and that was including planning all the food. Like, I had a whole spreadsheet of, okay, what are we going to eat on which day to make sure there was some variety and to make sure to weigh all the ingredients. And then I had prepared everything like per meal, how much water to add and all the instructions. And we toss in some chips or nuts here and there or like little treats. But first example, maybe Justin didn't know about. And then if he was having a hard moment, you could pull out this treat that he liked so much.
Yeah, and we take a big margin too, just in case we're stuck somewhere.
Yeah.
Probably like 10 days of emergency food. It's not as pleasant as the non-emergency food, but to just stay somewhere and wait.
Yeah,
maybe 10 days.
Yeah, because as I mentioned, you're in the middle of nowhere. And in regards on this expedition, people like to travel up to Tuktoyaktuk and they think that's in the middle of nowhere, but you guys are going beyond there.
Yeah.
Kind of India, or west of there, I should say. Yeah. And where there's even less facilities available to you. That's half of the adventure of it, though. That's half the draw of it.
Yeah.
And I try always to remember that even though it seems to be the middle of nowhere for us, it is someone's backyard, right? So there's like not many people, but say where we went regularly, even though we haven't met too many, they still may find some hunters. And we did actually between Fort McPherson and Old Crow, we met a hunter there. It was unexpected, like that. Like you said, for us in the middle of nowhere, but
for him it's home.
For him, it's home. It's his backyard. He knows pretty much the trees on the way, every bend of the river. It's very impressive.
Yeah.
And then to Herschel, we haven't met anybody this time, but normally there will be regularly hunters from Aklavik going there for hunting polar bears or something.
Or
muskox or something. And there was here and there, you can see tracks. You don't see much tracks in the north because they tend to disappear quickly with the wind. But we could tell some people had went there before us, definitively, either to Old Crow or from Aklavik to Herschel. We saw frozen tracks, but it's not something you can already follow because most of the time they're gone. But suddenly, hey, look at that, there's a track for 15 meters. It shows up again. But yeah, it's always someone's backyard.
That's a really good point. That's, definitely. And those people have been there for thousands of years, right? Generations. And they know that area, like you mentioned, so well. And to them, it's their home, it's their life. And we're guests. That's what we also need to remember that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're guests in their backyards. One of the other things that I noticed too, and I think it was more when you got out of the trees and more into the open stuff, I noticed it's quite hard to read the terrain.
Yes.
With everything being white, is that something that you get used to? Is it always a bit of a struggle?
It is obnoxious, right? The low light situation when there is no sun, and it's hard to tell the difference. Sometimes, let's say on the sea ice, it can be hard to tell the difference in the sky and the snow, and especially that all those frozen drift, snow drift on the sea ice, you don't see them until you climb on it. You don't see any shapes.
No.
So for the person in front that does nothing to look at, like no other people's track to look at, you need to brace for impact pretty much the entire time, because you cannot tell where you put your skis until your skis are on the obstacle.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating and can be very tiring because you have to pay attention.
Yeah.
You have to brace for impact all the time, because if you're caught off guard and then one of those bumps is higher than another one, where you're going to be thrown off your snowmobile or you may break it, and all that by paying attention to where to go. If there is a bit of sun behind the fog or the cloud, the whiteout, you can still see the sun. Sometimes you use that so you don't have to look at your navigation device all the time. But yeah, we rely a lot in those conditions to electronic navigation when we cannot tell the difference between north and south and west and east, when there is nothing left than it's just pure gray. It's not even white, it's light gray. Sometimes, it's just I'm there looking at my dashboard where I have navigation on it. And so we can still keep moving. Someday, it's not always like that, but on those tundra/sea ice, there are many days like that.
Yeah. And actually on the video where we go to Herschel Island at one point, Philippe's in the front and we have to avoid some jumbo ice and we go ashore. And then Philippe, he went up this wall of snow that we didn't even see was there, and they flipped on its side.
Yeah.
But the same happens here around home in the winter. Just the sun is so low and the clouds are low. And you'll be snowmobiling and you think it's flat, but you're actually going down into a shallow canyon and whatever. So we're used to that. But we've tried many things, like different lenses on our goggles, and nothing really seems to make it better other than going slow, like you said, being steady.
Yeah, we try to be steady. We don't go fast. We never go fast because it's too risky for us to be there and get hurt or break something. So we just slow and steady. So we don't stop very long. We just stop. We do 5 minutes every hour. You stop, you drink, you go in the washroom and snack, and let's go again. So we can go do our distance. So because we are with our son, he was 11 years old at the time, we do an average of 100 kilometers a day. Sometimes it's much more and sometimes it's less, but we can't really ask him to do much more than that. But to do 100 kilometers a day, it's actually, you have to put some hours, right? Because we don't go fast. Yeah. We can't go fast. Or you can go fast, but then the chances of breaking or hurting yourself are very high. So we don't go fast, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's not worth it, right? In the long run. So do you mind if we talk about Justin really quickly? You mentioned that he's 11 years old on that trip.
That's right.
And kudos to him. 11 years old on a big journey like that. Obviously, you guys have raised him to be an explorer, just like you guys are. Mm-hmm. And I think he's quite into it. Obviously, he's still a kid, so he's bound to have some issues or some, not meltdowns, but he's bound to get grumpy or something like that. Get hangry. I think we all get hangry and stuff like that. But kudos to him and kudos to you guys for taking him on this adventure. And what does he think of it in the long run?
So Justin, actually, he's been doing adventures since he was 2 months old. We've taken him bike touring 2 times a year since he was 2 months old, and then started snowmobiling adventures at the same time. And for him, I think he learned a lot on our trip to Dawson City a year and a half ago. That was for him like the first longer expedition by snowmobile and going in places that were new, not to us because we had done it before, but for him. And I think he really has found his place as a family. Like on these kind of trips, you become like a unit and a team and you work together and everybody takes on a role of a certain kind. And Justin really has found his place in there, helping with the chores, or if someone gets stuck, jumping to the occasion to dig things out. And he's grown into a kid with a very strong character, a strong mind. He's okay when things don't go as planned, and I think he seems to be enjoying it.
We're careful. I think we don't travel as if we were just grown-ups. Mm-hmm. We don't do that at all. If it were just the two of us, that would be a different reason. There would be even more distances. There would be completely different. Those travels are made for him. And the speed of our team when we travel by team is always the speed of the slowest.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. So it looks maybe like those expeditions are insane, but actually we're very careful.
Yeah. And
It is done for his reason, or he's a strong boy and he's been riding a long time ago when he's been riding. He's becoming a very good rider. And then, it sounds insane, but there's no insanity behind it. It is a truth for him.
Yeah. And our rule has always been when traveling with Justin and our two other boys to stop before they've had enough.
Yeah.
Like to make sure that at the end of the day, they're not like, oh, have enough and tired and want to go home. Yeah, there are some days where things are hard and then everybody is struggling a bit, but those are obstacles that make you grow and become a stronger person. But yeah, the rule general is like stop before they've had enough, so they want to go again. And that seems to have seems to work.
At the end of the day, when we're all tired, we may not ask him to help with camp or stuff like that. Just relax, and then what we Leandro and I are busy with fixing up machines or stuff like that. He has his time. We usually take a little device. He can play a little video game in the tent and just is off chores of any kind and just that's your time to
zone out.
Yeah.
And that was deal with the rest kind of stuff.
And sometimes we all need that, even adults, right?
Yeah, totally.
Especially at the end of a long day. There's times where I will walk away from the others if I'm in a group. I'll walk away from the others and go sit by the river or something like that for 10 minutes and zone out and then come back and let's go kind of idea, right? So we all need that, whether you're a kid or an adult. One of the things I've found with kids is that the more that I involve them in the planning stages as well as in the daily stuff, the easier it is for them to enjoy the trip just as much. So you mentioned the chores. So I noticed that a lot of people with kids, if they include them in the daily chores of helping set up or something like that, it gives them that more feeling of an involvement, and especially with planning. I've done that in the past. And is there any tips that you can give people that want to do some traveling with their kids?
Yeah, the trouble for do a trip that's at their scale, right? So we start very early. So we have two older boys. We start very early in their life and let's say when we were like traveling by bicycle, we're just doing maybe 20, 30 kilometers a day only, right?
Yep.
And mostly camping, having fun at camping, but we do things at their scale. Or even now that they're older and Justin is older, it looks like a big scale, but actually, let's say when I can do 250 kilometers days with my colleagues or with Leandra when we do expeditions with no kids. So we're down to 100K on those trips because it is meant for a kid.
Yeah. And I would add to that, like to start them young so that even though it's hard with little kids, but then it becomes their normal.
And then make sure that they ask for more. So we need to stop before we have enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, like I said, like have hidden little treats or their favorite things that they don't know about. And then when they do have a hard moment, or when, say, you're trying to climb up a summit and they're like, oh my gosh, my legs are so sore, I can't do it anymore. When you get to the top, I have a reward for you.
Yeah.
And it's typically like a little candy bar or whatever, or cookie or something that they don't know about that keeps them going in the hard moments. And that's works. Right. Yeah.
I notice kids that are raised in that environment, how much they, I don't know, not seem to enjoy life more, but just appreciate it more, I think. And doing expeditions, whether it be hiking trips or whatever, I agree with you. Get the kids involved young, and the more they'll enjoy it the rest of their lives. I was camping when I was 2 years old or a year old and stuff like that. And I still do it every second weekend kind of idea.
Yeah. Like another fun thing that we like to implement to make it fun for the kids is things like geocaching. I know with our two older boys bike touring, that was like, okay, let's go find the next geocache. And we found some really cool spots and we got them biking like in front. Okay, we're going this way.
Yeah.
So whenever we can, we're about to head out on a trip here in the next weeks. And we're planning some geocaching in there too, to find cool spots and to keep the kids engaged and have them help find routes. And you organize a day, go look up where we're going, and you organize a day of what we're going to do there, stuff like that. Yeah, involving them is definitely makes them feel part of the trip, and it gets them curious and excited about it too. Because I know for us, the big part of any trip is the preparation is like half as exciting as going on a trip itself.
Yeah, definitely including them into planning, I think, was being key. I've noticed it with some of my past relationships is that it's not just where Wes wants to go. It's okay, pick up these other areas, or say, like you mentioned, hey, this day is your day, and they can plan it, and it just gets them more excited about it and more into it. So
Yeah, exactly.
excellent idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Throwing back to the snowmobiles, what snowmobiles are you guys running, and what modifications have you done to them for these long days? I know you put some skid plates on and stuff like that as well, too.
Yeah.
I run Skidoo Scandic 900 super wide. And modification, put ice scratches for all the hard snow and ice will go. And then track studs, like those small studs, 200 studs. That's very important for when you go on the Arctic, I think, in my opinion, or lots of river traveling, creek traveling. And not so many, nothing outrageous really. I have a block heater, but I never used it because actually I was surprisingly, those 900 start by a very cold temperature. So I never had to use the block heater. What modification? I put a left throttle, of course. I really recommend that. When you need to break a trail or whatever, go side healing with those big machines with super wide. I don't being able to throw your weight on the right side of the machine is very important.
Yep.
So left throttle, studs, ice scratchers, definitively the but you want, I think. Oh, what I want. But Londra had the same. Londra got a 900 Ace as well as Candic, but wide track, not super wide. And she has the same modifications. Something we really like too is the dashboard, the glove compartment extension with the cell phone holder and heated. That's what we use for our navigation. So we put our phone in that compartment, and there's a little window, and your phone stayed charged and heated by a heating element. That's very handy, especially when we go in the whiteout conditions or things like that.
Yeah.
So you don't have to stop anymore and fish your for your GPS, your phone, or your map because it's always displaying in front of your eyes. So it's pretty good to be efficient. You don't have to stop all the time to look if I should go left or right, really. I have the maps in front of my eyes. That's pretty handy. We still carry paper maps, and we use paper maps at camp in the evening or in the morning when we do our planning, our strategy for the day. Then we use paper maps. But during the day, yeah, I really like that system. And it allows me to do navigation in pretty much blind. That's very good.
I think that would be key, obviously, in those kinds of conditions, right? So the fact that it's in a heated compartment. Yeah. We all know how the phones don't like cold, right?
Exactly.
They're terrible. Otherwise, you need to put deep inside your body so they don't freeze. I've seen that in the Arctic and Resolute with the National Defense. I didn't have my own snowmobile with that dashboard
Glove box
extension. So I have a navigation, but by -60, you need to have your phone against your skin. Otherwise, they never work. Not in your pocket, not inside your pocket, not even inside the puffy jacket inside. It has to be against your skin inside. And each time you need to navigate or to see where to go, so you have to open everything. Take your gloves off. You need to take your gloves off to take all those zippers, get access to your phone, and you have 30 seconds before the phone freezes. By then, your hands are
frozen.
It's terrible. It's very hard. So that little dashboard extension is actually great. If you are the navigator.
Yeah. And Justin's snowmobile, what size is that one?
Justin has
smaller.
he has a Skidoo Tundra 600 Ace. That was mine prior, but it didn't really fit my riding style. We thought about selling it, but then we realized it was better to hand it over to Justin as it's more reliable than the 440 that he had before. Knowing that we were going to go to these remote places, the newer machines are more fuel efficient. And then we knew it would be newer and more reliable. So we decided to pass that on to him while I got the new white track.
Yep.
So, yeah. And it works out good. It fits his riding style. He's very happy with it. So
good. On that trip up to Herschel Island, what were some of your favorite memories of that trip?
For me, it would be the landscape crossing the Richardson Mountains there. The landscape was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
There was, a little bit of thrill through, the difficult navigation or difficult terrains. Yeah, that definitely is high on my list. And of course, the arrival to Herschel Island with, the oil platform stuck in the ice, just those landscapes, absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. For me, it's the beauty of the land and the great challenges that we had. And yes, there are a lot of good memories.
Yeah, especially crossing the Richardson Mountains, there was lots of anticipation because as we were doing research on our trip, people were saying like, "Oh, it's so hard. It's like the hardest we've ever done, and it's so steep." And I had been worried about that. It's like, how are we going to manage if it's so steep? But actually, we are used to snowmobiling in mountainous terrain, and it was definitely challenging. I won't undermine the challenge that it is to cross those mountains, but it was thankfully less bad than we were, or I was anticipating it to be. But we were prepared for the worst, and it was less than that. And that made it memorable because, it was like up there, you're so exposed. There's no trees, and you can feel like the severity of if things go wrong here, you don't want to be here. But
at the same time, we prepare for it. So if something happened in the mountain there, we make plans before going. Okay, if that happened, so we don't want to, but if it happened, we have a plan, something like that, or maybe there's no firewood, but we have plans for if we have to camp in the mountains where we shouldn't. We will have a plan.
Yeah,
so it's at the same time, it feels good to have a plan for that. For if I get stuck in the mountains, and then we're careful. We only go across the path if the weather is good, and we have to wake up extra early in the morning to make sure you're gonna pass the high mountain pass on time. But you prepare also for if you can't. If something happens, you got you still not enough snow or whatever. Machine breakdowns. You need to spend the night in the mountains. Oh yeah, we don't want to, but we have a plan.
You have to on stuff like that. You guys also did another long trip the previous year up to Dawson City, right?
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, that was 10, was it 10? That was always also 2 weeks. Yeah, that was fun. We both have done that trip. Philippe did it by dog sled here at Yukon Island. And then we snowshoed part of it together. And for work with National Defense, we did part of it, like opening the trail for the Yukon Quest, the dog sled race. But to go as a family, of course, is different.
Yeah.
And
this was Justin's first
long
Southern Carol's trip.
Yeah.
That was that must have been a really neat trip as well, too, I can imagine.
It is a neat trip, yeah. It was supposed to be a little bit easier than it happened to be, because normally if you go there after the Yukon Quest, you have a nice trail all the way. But we couldn't go right after the Yukon Quest because of the break. So we went maybe 6 weeks after, and they had massive amount of snow on top of the trail, which was too bad because it made a lot of overflow on the legs, all the weight of the snow, and it covered the tracks, which was, it's not a big deal, but it was not as smooth as it's supposed to be when you go right after the quest, which I did with my dog team, actually. I waited for the professional dog sleders to go through, and I went after with my dog team on a beautiful trail.
It's already packed down and everything. You're all set to go.
Why not? It doesn't have to be hard. So that was the plan that year for Justin's first long trip, but it happened to be tons of overflow. The snow, the track completely covered, really covered. And that's not much of a problem. The problem is that they had so much snow that you have like hundreds of trees across.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And it takes a lot. When you start to cut that, when you have a tree 300 meters, it's a lot of time. Just a lot of time. You don't make your mileage anymore, right?
Yeah. And it's funny. I think about that. And I think when I go out and I got cut down a bunch of trees, or the windfall took out a bunch of trees, but I'm also not up to my knees in snow or up to my hips in snow, right? So I'm complaining about having to cut down our 6 trees that are across the trail, but I'm doing it in the summertime when it's nice and warm, and you guys are doing it all bundled up in snow up to your knees. And
that
was a total different experience.
Really? That was a little bit unfortunate, but normally that's not what it is. Normally it's just a very nice trail that through the Yukon Quest using, and then after that hunters are using, but it's always used quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not expected. It's not very challenging for navigation. It's just a nice ride.
Yeah, it's a
It's
good
not
trip.
different. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
beautiful trip. Yeah, so it's from home in Atlin. It's 1,000 kilometers to Dawson City.
That is cool. That is
Yeah.
so neat.
Yeah.
One of my other favorite videos is one of Philippe's from when you went and did that stay up at Resolute Bay
That's right.
with the defense program.
Mhm.
I definitely recommend our listeners check that video out. I really enjoyed that one. That was a little bit different from what you guys do,
Yeah,
but
that's
still a little bit the same, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good. That's
So-
how actually we learn snow machine things is because we were more into like non-motorized sports before, but I joined the Kenyan Ranger program when I moved to Atlin a long time ago, and I learned snow machining through them because that's what we do with them. It's a lot of patrolling or on power boats, sled or snow machines. So
Yeah.
that's how we got into that. And Leandra is also a ranger, Kenyan Ranger. We do a lot of patrolling the Yukon, northern BC on snow machine, and that's how we learn. We really learn a lot from that program.
Yeah, even the way of camping and moving with tents, and we both enjoyed that in a work setting, but then also applied it to our family setting because we love adventuring anyway, and that's a great way to move in the winter, and that's why that's why we do that as family also.
So what is the Canadian Ranger program?
We are a reservist of the national defense, and then we are a non-combat unit. And we mostly do what we call sovereignty. So we are sent in places where there's very few people or no people, just to be there as national defense, but non-combat, just to keep Canada Canadian.
Yeah, to be the expert of our local area also.
And if there was a conflict in the area, we would be the scouts or local experts for the regular forces.
Yeah.
So they ask us to go everywhere with our whatever, summer or winter, and then to get to know our area as good as possible. And if they need to go somewhere, we would know where they could find water, or where they could go to Herschel Island, or where they could go wherever. That's how. So it is a reservist work, so it's only a few weeks or a few months a year.
That's going to be an interesting program, though, too. As you mentioned, it's a great way for you guys to learn the area and learn new tricks of the trade kind of idea. So, as well as giving back to the country as well, too. That's a really neat program. And I think it's something that could be very valuable up there for everybody.
We meet with our colleagues who are very skilled people as well. And then you learn tricks from other people who have different ways of using their snow machine or their camp setup or whatever. There's always tons of stuff to learn from others. Even when you think, oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, exactly.
So, that's very good. You can really improve your personal skills by seeing other people using things or ruling out what they do. Oh, what that guy's doing. That doesn't work at all. Good. Now I know why I shouldn't do that. Good.
Yeah, I think we've all learned a bit from watching other people. Yeah, like you say, I don't want to do it that way, or I do want to do it that way for sure.
Okay.
So you guys don't just explore and have fun in the wintertime, even though it is seen to be wintertime up there a lot more than obviously down here, but you guys definitely enjoy your summers up around in the Atlin area.
Yeah, it's very enjoyable too in the summer.
Yeah. So in the summertime, you've obviously got the mountains there doing hiking and a little bit of four-wheeling and exploring, stuff like that. What are some of your summer activities you guys are up to?
Yeah, so we'd like to say hiking, fishing. We'd love to go on the lake and fish for trout, and exploring. Actually, in 2020, we were bike touring in Botswana, and we met this couple that had an early 90s Toyota pickup with the rooftop tent on it. And we're like, wow, that's so cool. And then we realized, hey, we have this 86 Toyota sitting in the yard that we're using for plowing. Maybe we should transform it. So on our way home, we ordered our rooftop tent from Minute Plane. And we came home and transformed our 86 Toyota into an overlanding vehicle. And then COVID was happening right at that same time as we were coming back from Botswana. And the lockdowns happened. But thankfully here, because we live remote, we could move freely because you don't have to see anyone if you don't want to. So we spent every weekend exploring every track, going in any direction. And then, that's followed with making our circle bigger. So we did the Canoe Road and the Honey Range Road and all the back roads that we could find in the area around here and in the Yukon. And we keep doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of your older videos, you got the truck on there and doing some exploring in that. So
Yeah.
definitely, I definitely want to get up into that area, up into the Yukon, up into northern BC.
Yeah.
I think I'm just missing out on that.
Correct
Me show up on your doorstep one day. What did your parents think of when you guys said, "Hey, we're going to stay in Atlin. We're living in Atlin"?
Yeah. My parents, I definitely grew up in one of the most populated countries in the world. My parents moved to Canada. That's great. And me staying here, I was always the city girl, fashionista, all those things. And my parents, I don't know, they've always been very supportive, and they were excited for me to stay here and very happy to support me in any way. But I could feel that for everybody was like, what's she doing? This is not Canada. I was young and I was looking, like I said, I was hoping to travel and work, and I was looking for adventure. And I think Atlin and Philippe, who had been on all these crazy adventures, it's like inspired me. And I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do too. And we actually after we met, we spent 3 years bike touring around the world before coming back here and settling. But yeah, I think maybe the first years my parents were getting used to the idea of me being here, and they've embraced this life here in Atlin and the lifestyle here too. And they realize how it's a great place to live and raise your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about you, Felipe? You've been all around the world with your adventures. When you finally decided to settle down, what did your family and friends think of you staying in Atlin, of all places?
They've been very polite. I don't really know what they think.
As long as you're happy, right?
I think they were fine. My parents were traveled a lot, and I got the taste for traveling through them. It was a modest family, but we did tons of exciting road trips all over the place, including in Northern Africa. And my dad was very much into mountaineering, so we were spending a lot of time in mountains doing all that mountain climbing.
Yeah, he summited the Mont Blanc when he was 10.
Oh,
we were doing tons of adventures, different style, completely different style, but every weekends camping somewhere, doing something. So I think when I told them I was leaving France, I'm not sure I don't remember. It's been a while ago, right? Well, they used to come here every year to visit us.
Yeah,
here. They're very old now. I can say that.
Yeah,
sorry. They don't come anymore, but they stopped coming a couple of years ago, something. But I think they were fine. Most likely now, as they age a lot, they probably wish I was closer. I'm sure, but they don't say it.
Yeah, and imagine having them come there probably made it a little easier for them as well too, because they saw how beautiful it is there and how much you guys are enjoying your lifestyle there. Right? So that definitely makes it a lot easier for a family that is not living where you are. So
and we go at least once a year to visit our family in France and in Kelowna. So
So your parents are still in Kelowna?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they have Canyon bike rentals there.
Okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
So, Leandra, you mentioned earlier that you guys spent 3 years on a bike tour. We could end up talking for the next 3 hours about your guys' adventures, but so we'll cut it off with this one. But you struck something up there with me. You guys spent 3 years doing a bike travel.
Yeah. So we started after we got married. Now, before, this was my test to see if I would fit. We snowshoed 400 kilometers from here in Atlin to Carmax on the lakes and then part of the Yukon Quest Trail. And after that, we got married, and then we canoed the Yukon River to the Bering Sea together. And our goal was actually initially to connect Atlin to Paris. Like we were going to cross the Bering Sea and then keep going through Russia and all the things. But our visas got denied for that because of a deed stain in Philippe's passport. So we went to plan B, and then we biked. We connected basically North Cape in Norway through Western, Eastern Europe, and the Middle East to Cairo in Egypt. And then we spent a couple months cycling in and around Iceland.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. When is your book coming out?
People have been telling us for years to write books, but I don't know, maybe one day.
You're just enjoying life too much. enjoy it while you can kind of
Yeah.
idea. So
Yeah.
that must have been one heck of a journey. You guys obviously have been exploring and all this for years. I think a lot of people living vicariously through you guys, but yeah, congrats to you guys. That's just obviously it's just part of your life, right? It's not.
Yeah.
I just can't see you guys sitting in the city, sitting on your couches kind of idea. So
That's right.
Yeah.
But we do enjoy going to Vancouver for a weekend once in a while and dress up nicely and be like that.
Also, we go to the city.
we both grew up in a more kind of setting, so we like
Once a year.
like once a year to go and put on our nice clothes and enjoy city life and then go back home.
exactly. Going to switch directions a little bit before we do wrap it up. Now, you guys are living off grid, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you also own Atlin Mountain Coffee Roasters, which, of course, with you guys living off grid, you guys are doing all your roasting off grid as well, too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be flat out honest with you. I don't know much about coffee, but this really interests me. I'm not a huge coffee person, but maybe if you can tell our listeners the process for roasting coffee. And then also for myself, because I don't really know much, what is the difference between a dark roast and a medium roast and all that?
Yeah. Right. So we have been roasting coffee off the grid we're just starting our 12th year. So we have a solar system that powers us. And because we are in the middle of the beautiful boreal forest, we opted for a coffee roaster that uses wood fire as a heat source instead of propane, which is the traditional roaster. So we import coffee beans from 7 different countries. And every time we get a new coffee bean in, Philippe, who does the roasting, he tries out different roast profiles to see what offers the best time and temperature combination to bring out in those coffee beans what we want to display in them. And then once he finds the best roast profile for that bean, it's basically just like every time you make the same, right? So we have about 13, I think we're at the moment 13 different coffees that we offer, from light roast to French roast. And so basically the difference between, say, light roast and French roast is the amount of time and temperature, and then the temperature change that gets applied to the coffee bean makes all the difference. So there's many chemical reactions that happen during the coffee roasting process. There is the Maillard reaction, and then there's what's called the first crack and the second crack. So the first crack, it sounds like there's popcorn going on in the coffee roaster. And that's like where the coffee beans really start to develop their flavor. They expand. And then you have about a 3-minute time window where you get the second crack. So past the second crack, the oils come out and the coffee beans start to look really black. And that's where you have those really dark roasts like the French roast. And that's where you get like the darker the coffee, the more you get those bold, smoky, ashy notes to be displayed. And the light to medium roast coffees, you have more like the original characteristics and flavors that are really displayed well in the coffee. But to some people, like the medium to light roast, when you brew it, it can look clear in your cup. Whereas those darker and French roast, it looks more black in your cup. But in caffeine-wise, that doesn't have anything to do with it. The light to medium roasts contain more caffeine compared to those really dark roasts. Because those darker roasts, they get roasted to a higher temperature. They lose more moisture, and so you need more beans to come to the same amount of weight than you do in a light roast. So that's why for a light roast, they are more dense, and the medium roast also, so they have more caffeine per coffee bean if you want.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks for the quick rundown. Like I say, I'm not a huge coffee drinker, but I've often been interested in learning how coffee beans are roasted, because that's something that is totally... I've never really thought about too much.
Yeah, I know. It's complicated and it's like wine. Yeah. It's actually quite fascinating. And we make a whiskey barrel aged coffee too that we age in whiskey barrels from the local distillery here in Whitehorse. That's always very popular.
Yes, I bet. I was looking at that on your website, and we were actually talking with Brent from Goso Cookware. He's bringing out a new frying pan for camping. He's out of the Kootenays. And we're talking with him the other day, and I was mentioning that to him, and you should have seen his eyes light up. You know, yeah, they get these barrels from the whiskey distillery and they roast them in there. And yeah, he got quite excited about it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So listeners want, and I'll put this in the show notes, but they can go to atlinmountaincoffee.com and order off of there as well. So you guys do a lot of shipping out of your, obviously you have to because there's not enough people in Atlin to keep you in business, but
we have a subscription service that goes we send that into the US and all over Canada.
okay.
And then we have a lot of retailers in the Yukon and in northern BC. We have more in BC, actually. You can, on our website, it's displayed all our retailers. And we ship anywhere, really.
And now that Canada Post is back working, make life a little easier.
Yeah, we were able to ship most with UPS and FedEx. But the problem is that we have to drive all those parcels to Whitehorse, that takes then time away from the roastery where we could be more efficient in getting all the work done. So December has been very crazy for us, but everybody's topic has been mailed out and now, most of them got them all in time before Christmas. So we're thankful that we still had other options. But yeah, it's definitely better with Canada Post being back now.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
I noticed you guys have what I'll call instant coffee packets available, right?
Yeah.
And that to me makes a lot of sense for people for camping. I would think that would be quite a popular thing for.
So that's a collaboration with a company in Calgary. We send them our roasted coffee and then they brew it. And it's a combination of the microgrind and freeze drying, but it makes for a really nice cup of instant coffee. It's definitely better than anything you can buy in the store, even those Starbucks Vias that some people like, this is better.
Perfect.
We are out of stock right now. We sold out over Christmas, but we will probably have some more in the spring because, it's cool. It's a great cup.
Cool. Yeah, I notice a lot of people still bring French presses and all that stuff camping because so many people love their coffee first thing in the morning. And it's even better, I've been told, that fresh pressed coffee, freshly ground and pressed coffee sitting by the campfire and looking at a lake. I'm told that's one of the best things in the world.
That's right. Yeah, they're right.
So one other thing I do want to mention too is that you guys are very supportive of your communities, that not only Atlin itself, but of the whole outdoor community through, you've got some special brands that are some fundraisers for different organizations like BC Parks and Wild Sheep Society and World Wildlife Association of BC and that. I do want to thank you for your guys' support for these organizations, because without support like that, it makes it a lot harder for these organizations to exist without financial support.
Yeah, we know that we wouldn't be here without the community we have. So we always try to give back and do what we can to give back to support the community that supports us, really.
One of the last questions that we ask our guests is what Canadian they would like to listen to on the 4x4 Canada podcast.
Yeah, I thought about that. Yeah, well, I was thinking maybe Dustin Porter from Destination Adventure.
Yeah, Dustin is definitely on my list. I love his channel on YouTube. And the fact that he's into the history like I am, I absolutely love history and finding these old abandoned places. Dustin's done a great job with that. And I think he's probably a very relatable person too, from what I've heard.
He came by here this summer and it was really nice to meet him. And I think he's got some great stories to tell that we'd love to hear more about.
I like the story till now guy, Sean, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, we've had Sean on here, and he's a great guy. Very interested in how he's come from just doing a couple small videos to where he's growing now, and his journey along the way. And it was quite interesting. We talked about some of his adventures, but a lot of it was actually the journey to get to where he is now, and how it's become a full-time job where he's spending 40 hours a week doing the processing, the editing, and how it's not just going out and exploring every weekend. It's actually a job now.
Wow, he's doing an awesome job.
Oh, he is. Definitely.
Very, very good looking footage guy.
Yeah, he definitely does a very good job on his editing and all that, his drone work and that. So I do have to admit that BC people seem to have a bit of an advantage because we've got such a wonderful natural scenery.
That's what I see.
The way I see it, I know quite a few of the YouTubers and that, and BC by far has the most amount of outdoor or overland YouTubers compared to all the other provinces, because
that makes sense.
But having said that, if you go exploring, you can find beauty no matter where you look. Even southern Saskatchewan with the wheat fields, you can find beauty. A lot of people don't realize how beautiful Saskatchewan is. North of Saskatchewan is absolutely gorgeous. And of course, the whole East Coast and all that. So if there's somewhere else you guys can go exploring in Canada, where would it be?
Actually, I would love to spend more time in southern BC.
Yeah.
Explore those tracks
Yeah.
and things, because when we go there, it's mostly to visit family, or we did some bit of road tripping, but road tripping. But, yeah, I would love to spend more time in southern BC.
Yeah.
Our old Toyota there and exploring those tracks.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually that's from watching Sean's video upstairs. Man, there's so much more to see down there. Yeah, even in Kelowna, maybe rather than flying, we should like take our truck down and go explore some of those roads. Yeah.
There is so much to explore in all of BC. I definitely want to go more exploring up north, but yeah, there's so much more, whether it's Kamloops, Kelowna, or into the Kootenays is absolutely beautiful, or over towards Bella Coola, or any of those areas. Yeah. The problem is not enough time and not enough money.
Yeah, exactly. Same here, even in the Yukon, there's so much more to explore, even not that far from home. But there's all this mining history here, and there's all these old mining roads that are the perfect tracks for 4x4ing. And you just, every time we go out, we find more. And it's like, where did this go? I think now we have to come back. It's endless, which is amazing. And we're very grateful for all the opportunities. But yeah, we need more time.
That's, I'm like I mentioned, I'm a true lover of history. So it's just even doing the research and finding out about it, whether I explore the mine first or find it by accident, or whether I hear about it and try and find it. And to me, the research is half the fun as well, too. Right. So,
even we had one trip, actually, we have a video about that too. We come upon this hole in the mountain, and it turns out to be like a big mine drift. And that was covered with ice the first time we went. So then we returned. And with headlights and well prepared, and we went to explore into or it was added. Yeah. Anyway, we went to explore, and it was so cool. We we had no clue it was there. Yeah, we love, that's part of the adventuring too, right? Finding treasures like that you didn't know existed.
Once again, we're talking with Philip and Leandra. They're known as the Brient Family on YouTube and Instagram, and I want to thank you guys again for spending a little bit of time with me this morning on this again, guys. I absolutely loved hearing about your adventures.
Yeah, thanks very much for having us. Yeah, it was great to chat.
Not a problem. And to our listeners, you got to check these guys out on YouTube. I'll put the links in the show notes and that, but talk about their snowmobile adventures and that, but you got to see it in the videos to really get a even better feel of it as well. So you guys are heading away on another adventure soon. So I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing more about that. And yeah, we will definitely have to keep us updated on your progress, and can't wait to see all the videos after.
Yeah, thanks, Wes. Yeah, we've got some great things planned for this upcoming year.
I really appreciate you spending time with me, and we will chat soon.
Okay, all right. Thanks for reaching out, Wes.